So I just got off the Resilient Minds podcast with Eric Balance, and I got to tell you, it was an amazing, amazing experience. This dude, oh God, he's just like the salt of the earth. He asks the best questions and is truly committed to helping his community live an abundant life. And I just want to say thanks again, Eric, for having me on the show. You're an amazing dude. Keep up the great work. Love you, bro.
Welcome, everybody, to the Resilient Minds podcast. I'm super excited to have today a dear friend, amazing entrepreneur, and, tremendous colleague in the marketplace, Mr. Henry Kaminski. What's going on, brother? How are you today?
My man, what is going on, Eric?
How's things?
Everything is awesome, dude. Things are just happening. It's a blessing. It's a blessing. And I count them every day. So things are awesome, my dude.
So for those of you that don't know Mr. Henry is, he's been in the marketplace for about 12 years now. And, he helps coaches, he helps consultants really nail in that ideal client, design that brand, enhance their online presence, scale profits. He founded his agency, Unique Designs, 13 years ago. It's full service, design, branding, full agency that is dedicated to helping personality brands, coaches, consultants, influencers to grow their brands, scale their profits, and increase their exposure on the online. It's fascinating too, because, I was on the host of your podcast, Brand Doctors Podcast. So if any of you go into check out Brand Doctors Podcast, where he really talks, about strategies that help entrepreneurs design reputable and profitable personal brands. The show was epic. He's utilized all his self-taught skills over the years as a graphic designer and consultant, where he's really able to overcome all the odds and build this multi-million-dollar business over the past 12 years. So, I really encourage, for those of you that, have never heard of Brand Doctors Podcast, I've never heard of Henry, to go out and check it. He's a brilliant man, and he continues to evolve and continues to share brilliance in the world, and just wants to deliver gifts and goods and, give the abundance through the world. And I think that, that's the thing that I really, can connect with this gentleman, is that, although we're in the exact same industry, and we serve, very, similar type of demographic, we have this like plethora of, ability. And it's fascinating. Today, I shared this beautiful post where it's like how you can look at your quote unquote competitors and see them as a gift, because it's an opportunity to really, and what competition or compete means is to conspire together, to make each other better. And I get it. I think that this really falls in line with our podcast today, because I think that the ability to conspire together, to make each other better, to serve, the marketplace and evolve it to allow one another to succeed and create massive abundance in this world alongside our quote unquote, again, competition, because I really don't believe in non-competition. I think it's just a gift that we all have, to actually, either see somebody ahead of us or support somebody behind us, or elevate each other as a collective. So, Henry, I'm grateful to have you, brother. And let's shred up, some knowledge, and just serve this brilliant community as we continue to, make massive movements in the world, my brother.
I love it, man. You get a standing ovation, my friend.
I love it, dude. That was epic.
Yeah. I'm gonna keep this show fun today. I got a couple more surprises for you. Don't worry. I got a couple more.
I can't wait, dude. So Henry, listen, I talked a little bit about like your 12 years, being, grinding it out, doing great things. But oftentimes, in the Resilient Minds podcast, I talk about our experiences, which I believe are our X factors, right? And how they really contribute to our why factors. So, going back, through the experience of, business and, maybe relationships or life circumstances as a whole, what are some of the Cole's notes that have been some of the X factors, the experiences in your life that have really contributed or maybe defined where you need to really set yourself apart or start to continue to persevere towards that big why factor?
Yeah, so I'll give you the 3 or 4 minute story. I'll try to keep it as brief as possible.
Beautiful.
But
Yes.
basically, the story that was told to me as a young kid, 6, 7 years old, from my mother used to say, she used to tell her girlfriends, Henry's my miracle baby. It took me 16 years to have him. And I never understood what the hell that meant. I thought women were pregnant for 16 years. And I was like, God bless these women. I don't know if I can do that. So what happened was, when my parents got married, they tried to have a family right away and they couldn't. There was issues with my mom, issues with my dad, and medicine wasn't the way it was back then. So they really didn't know what the hell to do. But they just continued over year after year after year and to try to have a family, and they just couldn't. And Eric, I don't know about you, but I don't know if I could do anything for 16 years, continue to fail and continue without pivoting or figuring something else out, right? But these two knuckleheads stayed at it, and eventually medicine got, and they found the reason, the cause. And so my mom went in for really minor surgery, and they gave it another shot, and boom, here I come. So about 2 years after I was born, my mom was in the kitchen doing whatever, and she came in to check on me in my crib while I was napping, and she looked down into the crib and saw me blue and unresponsive. And so they rushed me to the hospital. They realized that I'd lost all the salt in my body, and they couldn't figure out what was going on. But luckily they were able to revive me. And it wasn't till I got much older in life that I understood like that whole story and how I'm here really kind of on borrowed time. And I said to myself, wow, I really shouldn't be here, but I am. And I am going to do everything in my right mind to live and design the life that I want to live and be proud of. And I want to help a lot of people along the way who may be less fortunate or have a great skill or talent that they don't know how to articulate. God gave me this gift of communication and being able to read people and help people and want to help people and lead people. And I don't want to leave that behind without exercising it. And so I believe one of the quotes that I live by is the saddest thing in life is wasted talent. And that came from one of my favorite movies, The Bronx Tale. And I know that there's so many people out there, coaches, consultants, business owners that have awesome services, products, and they just don't know how to articulate it and get it out to the right people. And so with my gifts of design and strategy and development, I'm helping these people come to online and really scale to where they want to be. So particularly I'm helping 6-figure clients get to the 7-figure mark. I've been successfully able to do this multiple times, and I want to be able to share my experiences with them to help them design the life that they're proud of. So there you have it.
Beautiful. So, you've been on this profound journey and you've been able to, overcome, certainly, before even you've come to today's success, like, success in life, where like your body was resilient enough to really start recreating and, I guess creating in terms of crisis, recreating itself. And so tell me this is like, you mentioned as you continue to grow and have this ability to overcome and get creative with your clients, and working with 6-figure entrepreneurs, getting them into the 7-figure, what do you think had changed in your belief systems, or what do you think has changed in their belief systems over the years as they've continued to grow, or perhaps as you've continued to grow?
Well, entrepreneurship is hard. It's not easy. And if it was, everybody'd be doing it, right? So one of the things that I realized as I was getting into business was, this is hard. Like it's much easier to go get a 9 to 5 and just punch the clock and come in, mix the paint, drink the beer, whatever you want to call it, and go home, right? I didn't realize how hard it was until I got after it. And the good news is I had a 9 to 5. I worked corporate right out of college for 8 years, and I started this side hustle. Back then it was a side hustle, probably 5 years into working corporate. And then the last 3 years working corporate, I had this side hustle that I was building. And so when I transitioned into full-time entrepreneur, I sort of built up a little book of business. But here's what wasn't built up: my confidence. Okay. It wasn't until the first year of my business that I really started to feel and get confident in what I was doing. I sat down with my accountant one day after the first year, and they said, "Whoa, dude, what have you been doing?" And I was like, "Working my ass off 20 hours a day, 6 days a week." "What have you been doing?" And they said, "We can tell because you did $248,000 in revenue." And I was like, wow, first year. Most people aren't profitable until maybe second, third year, right? I was profitable year 1. And I was like, wow, I could do this. And so that gave me the chops to really push forward and work my ass off. And after 24 months, I made my first million, and probably every 2-3 years after that, I would make another million. So we're going on 14 years this year. So, do the math, things worked out well for me. However, it wasn't always that way. Back in 2011, I almost lost my business for the first time. And then 3 years later, I almost lost it for the second time due to poor financial decisions, not having the right, head on my shoulders. There was a lot of personal development stuff that I needed to go through in order to break free and get those skeletons out of the closet and address them. And because it wasn't my skill set that was holding me back. It was my mindset that was holding me back. And that needed a lot of rewiring, if you will, to get me, successful and back on track.
I love it. And this is something that I really want to touch on, because that resilience obviously was created in those times where first and second time. So let's take it to the first time that you almost lost your business. I often say, business is an intellectual sport, or business is a spiritual game. And, this is something that's super captivating for a lot of our listeners, because that resilience, sometimes people think that, you need to just go out and create a business. But sometimes it's a very lonely road. And, we oftentimes, have these other entrepreneurs around us, or, but also in addition to that, we have to have this self-certainty in ourselves, where even when there is so much uncertainty, we need to be resilient enough to push through. So taking it back to that first moment, and you talked about how you had to work around your mindset. What was it that you needed to recognize, or what did you create awareness around? And then how did you push through it?
Well, here's something that I recognize. So people throw around the term personal branding a lot, right? Now it's starting to become like this fun word that gets thrown around. Well, you need a personal brand, or personal branding is the way to go in 2020. And I think that term gets thrown around a little too easily without understanding what it really is. And personal branding to me is the intersection between how you perceive yourself and how other people perceive you. And back then, let me back up a second. When that gap is wide between how you perceive yourself and how others perceive you, that's a lot of struggle. Okay. I know a lot of people struggling when that gap is wide. When that gap is thin and very narrow, those people are typically crushing it.
I love it.
And
that's
then,
such a good point.
Back then, my personal brand was very wide. Okay. I saw myself as the next, Brad Pitt. And other people were like, Henry, you're not that good. And you need a lot of work. You think you know everything, but you don't. You barely know anything. And it wasn't, it was tough love. You know what I mean? It was tough love. And it showed in my work. It showed in how I was, how clients were receiving me, how I was receiving clients. And when I finally said, you know what, you put in 5 years of your life into this business, you're not going to quit because you understand this now. You're going to build and grow and become better than you ever thought you could be. And here's what happened. I realized that I couldn't do that alone. And that's when Russell Brunson popped into my life. Everything is, I don't believe in coincidences. Everybody comes into your life for a specific reason. And we met, and I joined his coaching program, and then he wound up being a client for 2.5 years. Helped him brand ClickFunnels and get that brand to looking the way it does today. And after 2.5 years, 6 months later, he hits $100 million in revenue. So that was that's a piece in that's a part of my memoir that will never go away and stay there forever. But he said, dude, you got to increase the value that you deliver to your audience. You're a freelance graphic designer right now. And now you could go to Fiverr and get what you do for $5, right? I don't know now. I know Fiverr has gotten a little bit more expensive over the years, but back then it was. And so I didn't know how to do that at the time, right? So I just joined Fiverr and I became a Fiverr designer. And I remember the one woman that drove me absolutely insane where I said, I'm done. I did a business card for $5 and she made me do it for 6 hours until she was satisfied. So do the math. I was getting paid like 16 or 18 cents an hour. And I said, there's no way I could do this anymore. So that's when I explored ClickFunnels and I started to be a user of ClickFunnels. And I was like, wow, if I could take my design skill set and deploy it with this software, I think I can help a lot of people level up their online presence and help them build, really strong funnels. And so that's what I did. And so for the past 6 years, I've been helping ClickFunnels users really understand branding before they dive in and start wasting a lot of time, money, and energy in building funnels that aren't really going to represent their true value. And I see that's where the big choke point is where everybody makes it sound like funnels is the savior. Funnels is going to help you grow online and make you millions, but they don't understand that before a funnel comes a really solid brand foundation. And without that, it's like building a house on sand. Yep. You're cruising for a bruising if you're trying to skip that part. So now I'm helping with the brand foundation, and then we go in and execute the funnel builds and architecture, and now people are seeing tons of success.
And I love it. Like it's building a house on sand, or a house on sticks, or mansion on sticks, or a foundation that just doesn't exist, right? Like I think that that's so important. And you're right. Like ClickFunnels is a great tool. It's a great resource, but it's all in the way that we execute and utilize, just like any other resources we have. And it's so was this the first time? So the second time you almost lost, was it a different situation that occurred?
Yeah, so that was way more personal than, well, actually it was professional and personal. So let's hit the professional part, right? So I'm starting to attract higher quality clients. I'm starting to charge more for my service, and I was going through some growing pains because I was still building out my team. So we were going in and out of, human resources, trying to find the best team and the right team and the most cohesive team. But I also didn't have proper systems in place to scale. Okay. I didn't have frameworks to work on that was going to withhold the stress of multiple clients working at this level. And so there was a couple clients that I was working with that the project went to hell in the handbasket because of my my processes, my systems were not tightened up enough, right? And they weren't bulletproof. So at that time, it was, what was it, 2017, right? Somewhere around there, or 16, late 16, early 17. Um, I had to refund like $25,000 worth of work. And I just said, here, I don't deserve this. Here's your money back. I know. So it was $25,000 that they paid, but I forked out probably another 10 or so for my team, right? So that's $30,000 right there. Now, this was right around when my son was born, and I was going through some personal things that made me feel like I wasn't going to be a good dad. Okay. So I did everything in my right mind to get my mind off of this, what was about to happen, right? The birth of my son. So I went out and I thought I was doing the right thing. I went out and bought a fancy watch for my wife. I bought a fancy watch for myself. I went out and bought a $187,000 car. And I was like, this is it, man. Like, I'm just going to get my mind off of all of this with material things. And maybe this will all go away. And that was the stupidest thing that I ever did. I completely buried myself financially until, there was almost the point of no return. It was almost the point of no return. So I was literally like $40,000 in debt. And I had to figure out a way to climb out of that. Right. So I did get some therapy help personally to help me understand that, Henry, you're going to be a fine dad. Look at the way you treat your dog. Like, you're going to be a fine dad. And you have everything inside of you to be an excellent dad and to be an excellent entrepreneur and to be an excellent husband, son. And so once I gained that confidence back a little, I got rid of the materialistic things. I sold the car back. I went and I refunded. I got money back for the watches. I took a little hit, but oh well, you know what I mean? You live and learn. But I took that money and I reinvested it back into the business. I hired a sales coach. I hired a business coach. And I really got in the grind, man. I was not playing around. I was like Jermaine Bettis from the Pittsburgh Steelers, like when he was playing. That guy was no joke, right? And I just put my helmet on and I went to work. And it took me about 3 months to get out of the funk and get out of that, like that Eeyore mentality, like, oh, woe is me. How am I going to get out of this? This is so hard. Maybe I should just go get a job somewhere and just forget this whole thing.
Yeah.
And no, it wasn't happening. It just, one client, two client, three client. I get out there on social media more. I start telling my stories. I hit this unbelievable block. And I said, you know what? I'm going to share this hardship with my community and show them that this is what I'm going through right now. I don't give a shit about the money. I don't give a shit about new clients. I'm going to share with them this experience. And man, that vulnerability opened up so many doors in the past. And shortly after that, it took about a year, say about 6 months to a year to kind of get back on my feet. But after that, man, we were soaring. 2018, I get a 2 Comma Club award for having one funnel that went and did $1.3 million in sales. And it's just been, I look back and say, you had to go through those trying times to become the man that you are today.
Absolutely.
And so I'm blessed. Honestly, at the time I thought I was doomed, but I kept saying to myself, and this is the one point that I want to get across before I go on another rant, is the whole time going through those hardships, I kept saying one thing to myself: Henry, this is temporary. This is not forever. And just telling myself that every day when I woke up got me through that day. And boom, You know, after a while, you know, everything lines up again and you go.
You know, Henry, I love your vulnerability and authenticity, and I really felt it there, you know. And I just want to say, that's a lot of courage to just be able to share that, because I think, you know, sometimes people perceive that we have um, this, you know, amazing road of journey, that it's so easy and simple, and that, you know, that, to be honest, you know, all these things that they think that, you know, we're doing perfectly, we're doing with iteration, with execution, with uncertainty. And we're having this courage, and that's massive courage to be able to share something like that. So I just want to like really acknowledge that and say thank you for sharing, because I think there's going to be a lot of like, there's a lot of tremendous value and golden nuggets in that, of how to continue to persevere. And even when you make, you know, mistakes, to be able to live with that integrity and still come back from it and push through, and you know, manifest this next level. You know, one thing I really want to touch on is this element of material possessions, where you got sidetracked and you almost lost focus. And you know, it's always fascinating. You know, I always believe, you know, it's like how life happens, you know, to us, you know, not to us, but for us. And I find that in that materialistic, because same thing, you know, like, you know, for such a long time, you know, this element of achievement, and you know, this willingness to just want it to be perceived through the lens of, you know, society or peers, that really had nothing to do with my success, or you know, just wanting to prove to them for some reason, even though I didn't care what they thought, but apparently I did, because you know, you know, that was my awareness. That's what I thought. I didn't care, but I did care, obviously. And, you know, we do things for people that really have nothing, you know, to offer, or like we want to be perceived by people that don't even have anything that want to really serve moving forward. And this materialism starts you know, ascertain in the entrepreneurial world. And what was it, you know, where something, you know, in that your values seemed to shift, right? And I just want to touch on this, because I think it's super important in the entrepreneurial, as you grow and as you start to scale and you turn from a six-figure entrepreneur into a seven, right? There's this different intellect that starts to happen, where you're like, yeah, I can afford maybe, you know, the payment on a Ferrari, or you know, a Lamborghini, or you know, or buy myself a Rolex, or all this shit. But instead, we make this decision when you're a six-figure entrepreneur to transition to the seven, where you start to invest in human capital. And I really believe that that's where like the shift happens in my, like, at least for me, in my experience. What was it that you realized, hold on, I don't need these fucking materials, because that's just something that is going to be a byproduct in the future nonetheless, when I offer enough value into the world. But realizing that it's something that right now is not the most important thing. What was that shift in value that you
Yeah.
had?
So, yeah, that's a great question. And I remember it vividly. Um, I remember when I decided to sell back those two watches, it took me 2 weeks to box them up and to actually get back and send them, like bring them back to the jewelry store that I
A
got
lot
them.
of and a lot of humility, probably. like
A lot of
holy shit.
ego,
Yeah.
a lot of humility, a lot of just pride, you know. So I go back and I bring I remember I put the boxes on the counter, and I was like, what can you give me for these? And he said, well, I'll give you back 80% of what you paid for them both. And I said, okay, fair enough. So he gives me a stack of cash, and I walk out of there, and I'm driving home on the highway, and I call my dad, and I said, Dad, I got to be honest with you. It wasn't as hard. I it wasn't as emotional as I made it out to be to give those watches back today. And I remember his voice. He said, Henry, are you done? And I said, done with what? And he said, this. He said, I raised you by myself. I worked 4 fucking jobs to make sure that you had food on the table and clothes on your back. He said, I didn't do this to you. He said, what are you going to do when Dante comes up to you and says, Daddy, can you buy me those pair of shoes or buy me those pair of sneakers? And you can't because you have no money in the bank. He said, I didn't do this to you, so don't do it to him. That was it, dude. That was it. That was it. I almost had to pull over. I get emotional just talking about it because it feels so fresh. And I remembered that was it. That was it. So I came home and I said, I am on a mission to become more financially intelligent, and literally I popped into Audible. I said, the hell with Tony Robbins. I'm going to where he got his shit. And it was Jim Rohn. And I started diving into Jim Rohn, and he taught me the 70-10-10-10 rule, live off of 70% of your earnings and invest the other 30%. And that's what I've done over the past 3 years. And, now I have a tremendous runway, and I feel like I'm pseudo retired. I feel like I have a lot of breathing room. I could select my clients now. I don't have to take every client that comes my way or is interested in working with me. And I made it a point that I will never go back to that again. And I will always consider making sure that everything's taken care of that needs to be taken care of before I spend frivolously on something or something materialistic. Now, I'm not saying materialistic things are bad. I still like my watches. I still like my cars. I still enjoy the finer things in life, but they're not as important to me. They're secondary. They're not primary. And I'm doing them because I want to do it, not because I need to show you or show my family or show anybody that I'm successful.
Same, dude. I think that that's super important. Like, I have this little flag, a Ferrari flag. I've been kind of carrying around everywhere I go. And I've always wanted a Ferrari, and I know one day I'll have a Ferrari. But again, that's not my primary, focal point. It's the focal point of wanting to just like learn how to grow the business. So yeah, that is going to be a byproduct of, the other things that I want to create. Right. And I think that that's been always something that, it's like that little boy dream that I had, right. And I'm going to keep it, right. Yeah. Right.
Old with those things still,
Right?
old and gray.
Right. So I mean, I love that, and how does that now, that value, that transition, how has that really shown up now in your business? Because I think that's important, right? So, you've created this runway, you have this, scalable, tremendous business, how's Unique Designs been able to, take over that DNA from you and really build that culture inside your team now as a result of, your willingness to just want to show up?
Yeah. So a couple things. So I have a really tight knit team. There's 6 of us now. There used to be 8. There used to be 13. But I over the years I've been able to refine and iterate and really get more efficient. So now there's 6 of us, and we're like a little family. And they knew how ambitious and motivated I was before my son came into my life. When my son came into my life, it was just pour gasoline on all of that and light a match, right? Yeah. It was times 10, right? Now I just turned 40 a couple weeks ago.
Happy birthday, belated.
Another match thrown on the fire, right? Because I said to myself, and I told my team and I told my audience 2 things. One is, there's going to come a time where Dante is going to be of age to Google my name, watch videos, listen to podcasts like this, read articles about me. And I know he's going to do that research. And I want to leave behind the path to help him become the best man he possibly can in his life. And that's why I'm doing what I'm doing now. Okay. So I am a practitioner, and I am going to walk the walk and talk the talk, and everything that he watches and listens to and reads in the future is going to help guide him. That's the reason why I do all of this now. Second thing is personally, I'm not going to live the next 40 years of my life the same way I lived my first 40. I'm too much more wiser. And time is not necessarily in my favor like it was when I was 22 years old. Okay. And listen, we got time, right? We got time, but time is more valuable to me than money at this point. So how can I leverage my time more wisely so I could do the things that I love to do with who I want to do them with when I want to do them? So that's my focus. And so now I've refined my program so well, and I know we're going to start tinkering with it again and get it even more refined over time. But I want to help as many people as I possibly can before I take my last breath, so that I stay in the back of their head like, wow, I wouldn't have been able to do this without Henry. And he gave me the clarity. He gave me the confidence. He gave me the focus. He gave me the ability to really communicate my true essence. Again, Eric, this is a blessing. Not a lot of people can get on a camera, can speak for 40 minutes to a lens, can go live without going into a panic attack. Like, I've been blessed with the skill of communication, and I'm not going to take advantage of it. And I'm not going to put it on the shelf somewhere and say, that's nice, but I want to do this because I'm selfish. No, I'm going to use that skill to my ability to help as many people as I possibly can before I die. And that's it, period. End of story. So.
Absolutely. A great mentor of mine, he says all the time, when you have something that can change the marketplace or change somebody's life, you have a moral responsibility to go out there and serve them and provide value to them. Mr. J. Abraham, he's done so much amazing work, and he continues to just add so much value into my life, and I know into many people's lives. But he's been so instrumental in really nailing that, that finesse of like the quality of the way that we ask ourselves of how we're going to be able to serve our clients. It lies on you. And Tony, he actually says, whenever you're having the conversation with somebody, if their lack of uncertainty overcomes your certainty, well, how can you ever help them? You need to be more certain than the other person. And that becomes really foundational in the way that we show up. And you showing up online, continuing to serve clients, continuing to help. I'm certain there's been people that you've encountered individuals that may have opposite views and your perspectives and how you're able to serve. How do you respond to that, Henry?
I don't waste one waking moment or second on those folks. You know who Sean Stevenson is? He passed away last year. Epic speaker. Beautiful soul. I was able to meet him at one of Russell's events, and he got up there, and the minute he started to speak, he spoke for about 90 minutes. I had this knot in my throat. I almost thought I was going to lose my breath and pass out. That's how emotional I was when this guy spoke. Wow. Right? Wow. It was crazy, but I'll never forget this story he told. He said, guys, do you know how the Coast Guard is trained when they have to go out into a storm and save people that had a boat capsized? And we all were like, no. They said when they go out and there's 8 people on the boat and they can only save 6, they will only help those that swim towards them. And that I will never forget for the rest of my life. That was the special gift that Sean gave me personally.
Oh.
That I will never forget. And so when people are swimming away from me or have all these objections or contradictions or whatever you want to call it, if they're just not on my boat, that's okay. They'll find the boat that they need to go on, and they'll eventually find their way, hopefully. I'm only serving the folks that are swimming towards me. And that's where I'm spending my time and energy. Because what happens, Eric, when you start chasing somebody who's swimming away from you, now you put your life in danger. Mm-hmm. I don't see the point in that.
Agreed, bro. I think that you have, I love that analogy with the Coast Guard too. That's super powerful. A great way to illustrate. You've given us a path of success that like no other, right? Like, I mean, there's so much value that you have in vulnerability, stories, experience, how you're able to serve. What would be one reason why people fail?
They surround themselves with the wrong people, 1. 2, they don't believe in themselves. And 3, and I got this from Tony, I'm not making this up, but I don't think they have a big enough reason to do what they want to do. And that's it right there. I mean, if you believe in, if you know you can't do it, you can't. If you don't believe in your product or service, what the hell makes you think somebody else is going to believe in it?
Yeah.
Right? That's the way I look at it, right? I would buy my program over and over and over again because it was something that I wish I had when I was building my business. Nobody taught me. It's funny. I'm seeing somebody on more of a spiritual level to get some clarity of where I want to go in the next couple of years. And she said something to me really amazing. This is like, I've never shared this on a podcast before. So you're the first. She said to me, Henry, you want to know why you're doing what you're doing. And I thought I knew. I thought I knew. As she said, nobody taught you. Nobody led you. Not even your parents. None of them could have led you to what you do now and how you do it. You learned everything because you had to on your own. So the reason why you do what you do and the reason why you're so good at what you do is because you want to give people what wasn't given to you. You want people to have what you didn't have. Mm-hmm. And that got me super emotional because it flashback to parts of my life where, I thought my dad was my hero, and he still is. He still is. He's oh my God, I love him more than life itself. But when you pedestal people, they could do no wrong, right? But as I get older, I realize not that he was doing anything wrong. He was just doing the best he could.
With the resources he had, absolutely.
With the resources, right? So I don't blame him for any of that, right? I don't. I feel sad. I feel sad because I felt like, man, if he just, if he was given the opportunity, right? If my mom didn't have the upbringing that she had, right? And they both didn't suffer the way that they suffered, it might have been a little easier, maybe. Who knows? But when that person said that to me, I was like, "Ooh, that is heavy."
You know,
And
go ahead. Sorry.
no, go ahead.
The great Rumi poet, he said, you know, our biggest wounds, our greatest wounds become our greatest light, right? And I think that's super powerful. And I agree. I think that, you know, you're able to show up in the world in a way where you found there was things missing. And yeah, you're right. I think that, you know, everything that we get passed down to us from our family, our parents, our, you know, grandparents, our ancestors, you know, are gifts because they were given to us based off of love, in the presence of love, because that's what they were really, those were the resources, that's what they knew of how to pass on the love. That's the way they knew how to love. And that's why I believe, you know, Tony always said, it's like life happens for us, not to us. And I totally agree with that. And it's the biggest gift. And it's this curiosity that you have, Henry, that I think is what allows you to serve at such a high level, brother. You know, massive blessing to you, bro. This has been super, you know, like heart spaced. I really appreciated your energy and the vulnerability and the authentic approach that you just have towards not just business, but yourself, your awareness, your family, your growth, your intelligence. It's super beautiful to share that. And I'm really excited to, you know, for everybody that's watching live right now, or for anybody that's gonna, you know, watch back the recording, you know, check out Henry. You gotta have to go, you know, make sure to, you know, take advantage of, you know, this man in his heart. But more importantly, Henry, if anybody does want to reach out to you, please let us know where they can reach you, how they can find you, or if there's any resources they can go and check out.
Yeah, so you could check out the Brand Doctor podcast on iTunes or Spotify. I hang out heavily on Instagram. I just it's my favorite hangout, and you can find me there at the Brand Dr. And then I have a Facebook group called the Brand Doctors Hangout. You could catch me there. I'm trying to build a community in that group, that because I really want to put a face to my followers. And I really and I think Facebook is the best way to do that with groups. So I encourage you to check out the Brand Doctors Hangout on Facebook. It's a public group. You can find it if you just search it. And say what's up. Say that you checked out this podcast and that's what brought you there. And you know, I'm happy to meet you and I'm excited to meet you. And I hope I was able to share experiences that lit you up somehow, some way, or you resonated with today that says, wow, man, I felt something similar, or I went through something similar. And now I have a little bit more clarity of maybe where to go next. And that was the whole point of coming on the show. I love you to death, Eric, but we have people to serve. You know,
So it's all about.
from one ball brother to the next. Like, you know, we have a lot, and that's why I love the energy when you came on my show. And I said, man, it'd be an honor to be on your show, and I just love the work that you do, and the passion behind it. You know, I can see that, I can feel that, and I just want to encourage you to keep up the great work.
Henry, bless you, bro. I really appreciate you, man, with love and massive appreciation, man. It's been just a pleasure to have you. And, you know, let's continue to stay in touch. Let's continue to, manifest greatness in our world and help a lot of people and make it, like you said, it's not about us. It's about the people we serve. It's about, how we show up in the world. And, I want to really ask you one key question, the last question before we go. If you had 3 days left to live, what would you do?
Oh, that's such a hard one, man. And that is 3 days left of life. What would I do? Uh, I would get all of my friends and family together, right? Like the people that I love the most, all in one room, and like or in one backyard, right? And just enjoy every minute. I don't know what I would do. I would probably be listening to a lot of hip hop music because I'm a huge hip hop fan. But I would get all the people that, I have tremendous love for, just under one roof or one gathering and just say, grab your sleeping bags. This is going to be the best 3 days of our lives.
I love it. Henry, blessings to you. If anybody, you guys go check out Henry. You know, if you love the podcast, screenshot it, tag us both into our story, in your stories. We'll reshare it. We want to see it going out there. We love you guys. You know, Henry, love you, brother, and we'll talk soon.
Love you too, bro. Thanks again for having me.